as I was watching them die, I just didn't care. It got to a point where it was just like, yeah, I mean, sure. I guess it's shocking because they've had a lot of screen time, but they haven't done any interesting things within that screen time with these characters. And so seeing them dispatch, it's like, on a technical level, it's interesting and cool. But in terms of the story you're trying to tell, the emotional beats you're trying to hit within this episode, I just think it fails completely. This is going to be a more laid-back review for the Acolyte. Originally, I wasn't going to do a review just for Episode 5. I was at least going to wait for, like, Episode 6 as well. Or perhaps even by the time they get to Episode 8. Because I believe this is an 8-episode season. Or an 8-episode miniseries or whatever. But I'm getting to that point now with this show where I'm not even, like, mad at it anymore. Like, it started out fairly weak, fairly mediocre with the first 2 episodes. Like, I appreciate that we're in a new time period, 100 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. I think that's an interesting time period to explore the High Republic, which I know is a recent creation of Disney's Lucasfilm. And they've released comics and books. I haven't read any of them. I'm unaware of it, but supposedly this is supposed to take place 100 years before the events of the prequels. And it's the Jedi at the height of their power, right? The height of their power, their numbers had never been, larger across the galaxy, right? And I thought, well, that in itself, I think is interesting. I think that's cool. Just like, yeah, getting away from the original trilogy era, the prequel era, or the new sequel era. It's like, hey, let's go further back, and we don't have to mention any of those characters, even though some of those characters are showing up though. I like that on paper. I think that's a good idea, and I want Star Wars to do more of that. Go so far in the future that, the events of the original trilogy or whatever trilogy you want to mention, they're not even consequential to this particular story. Or so far in the past where it's like, yeah, now it's thousands years ago. Let's follow new characters. But that, this series doesn't exactly, do that. It does it to a certain extent, but not enough in my opinion. Now, I know there's been a lot of complaints in regards to, like, canon and what's breaking canon with the Jedi and the Sith and, who knew, what at any given time. I don't know all the specifics of how much that breaks everything down. I mean, the show hasn't, finished yet, so there could be a better explanation. We don't exactly know. I'm just going off of what I've seen of the first 5 episodes, right? So I'm still going to be fair for this show, even though at the same time, I feel like it's gotten to a point where even if it manages to recover, like in the back, some people say it's doing so with this most recent episode, or in the back half, the last 3 episodes. I mean, it's still just so frustrating that we have to sit through 4, especially episode 3 and 4, such lackluster writing and character work and set pieces to a certain extent. My biggest issue with this show is the writing and is the characters. So many of these characters are either incredibly underwritten to the point where I know nothing about them, or I'm just apathetic towards them, or the writing is just contradicting itself every episode. We follow these 2 characters played by Amanda Stenberg, who plays these twins of Osha and May, and their motivations are literally changing every other episode. And it's making it very difficult for me to connect with them. And that's certainly the case of this most recent episode and episode 5. Now, what I will say at the top, like, is this probably the best episode of the season so far? Yeah. I think you can make an argument it is. The reason for it is not because of its writing. It's not because of its character work for the most part. It's on a technical level. It's like most of this episode is just spectacle and fight scenes and fight choreography. That's what's on full display. That's what's at the forefront of this specific episode. And I think some of the lightsaber stuff that they do in here is cool and is brutal when they finally engage with the dark side user, the Sith, whatever you want to call them. Darth Teeth. We see all that, and it's like it's some pretty impressive stuff. I've just come to the realization I am not a fan of wire work in general. It's just, and that's a bit of a personal bias. Just something with the way the characters move, And especially if it's like really bad, it's just like it just feels awkward. You can see the wires like pulling them back and stuff. It looks especially in something like Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, right? This is not as bad as that, but it's just an aesthetic thing that I'm not overly fond of. I just don't like wire work. I don't think it looks good. It doesn't look all that natural to me. But there are other people that do. But, you know, other than the wire work which they use in here, which I don't think looks all that great, a lot of the choreography I thought, you know, did work. There were some cool things that I don't think the previous episodes did a great job of showing with the action scenes. Here, they were good. But it just comes down to the fact that so many of these characters, again, are underdeveloped or have, like, no really interesting aspects to their personality that when bad things happen to them, and a lot of bad things happen to a number of these characters in this episode. Like some characters that we've been following for quite some time, yeah, they're not going to be in future episodes at this point. A lot of them end up dead. And as I was watching them die, I just didn't care. It got to a point where it was just like, yeah, I mean, sure. I guess it's shocking because they've had a lot of screen time, but they haven't done any interesting things within that screen time with these characters. And so seeing them dispatch, it's like, on a technical level, it's interesting and cool. But in terms of the story you're trying to tell, the emotional beats you're trying to hit within this episode, I just think it fails completely. And they just do the whole thing where they bring in a bunch of other Jedi characters who you've never seen before because they're sent to this planet to track down the character of May, who's there to kill a Wookiee Jedi named Kalnaka. You know, you have all these extra Jedi who are just cannon fodder. They're just there to die. They're to take the big hits and to, you know, for the big choreographed fight sequences, right? Which they then do. You see people getting impaled. First time in a long time seeing lightsabers like impale someone. They actually stay dead. I know that Lucasfilm recently, like, hey, anyone can apparently survive a lightsaber stabbing or skewering, unless you're Qui-Gon Jinn, of course. But this is the first time in a while they were actually going out of their way to kill characters with lightsabers, and they stayed dead, which was impressive. Not to get into too many spoilers, the best character in this particular episode, and I think for ever since they were introduced, I think his name is Chimere. Or not Ezra Miller, as some people have been referring to him. He looks strikingly like Ezra Miller. But I really actually like his performance. There's aspects of his character that are still kind of confusing and weird. They're going to have to explain. However, in terms of his mannerisms, his interactions with some of these people, he just wasn't stoic, which was nice. So many of these Jedi characters, and the Jedi overall, I think over the last few years, have just been so stoic and so dull and so boring and so regimented. It's not very interesting. That's been on full display in this series. But like with his particular character, I just like seeing someone with a bit of personality. He feels like he was adding his own thing to the character himself, and it stood out. Even though, like, what ends up kind of happening throughout this episode, again, everything with Ocean May at this point is just frustrating and ridiculous. They're the least interesting characters in this show, and they're the main fucking characters. And that's a big problem. And we follow so much of their story throughout this season so far, and it's just not interesting. Like, I realized while watching the stuff with the dark side user in this, where he's doing all these crazy things and actually saying some kind of interesting, you know, bits of dialogue. He's sassy, which I thought was pretty cool. But what I liked about this episode was what I thought I was going to, what I thought was promised with this show, that it was going to show the perspective of the Sith, of these dark side users, all right? I thought that would be interesting. It's like, okay, we're not just going to follow the heroes. But then, you know, it changed during production into this murder mystery, which isn't really that interesting to begin with, honestly, especially with all the Ocean May stuff. But it was like, oh, here it is. Here's the gem within all of this shit. It's like the thing that you initially promised is what you probably should have leaned into. If this is like, yeah, give me a show from the perspective of the villain. I think that would be really cool and really interesting for Star Wars. Like, I don't know why they insist on taking their villainous characters, or certainly their morally gray characters like Boba Fett. You know, that's what I thought, like in the book of Boba Fett, where you tell me it's going to be like, you know, a crime story, a mob story, you know, and he's like, you know, as a bounty hunter, he's done good things and he's done bad things. He has his own personal philosophy, but then you have him fucking hanging out with baby Rancors and petting them, and it's like, what are we doing? You know? And I like I like the idea of following a villainous character. Like that is our main lead. It's worked before in so many other shows, so why can't Star Wars do it? It's just such a fear of getting too dark because we don't want to alienate the audience. We want to alienate the kids. That's what it just feels like. And so we're stuck. We're left with this husk of what sounds like a good idea, but all the things that could have made it interesting have been stripped out and have been replaced with content that is just safe, boring, and in a lot of cases just nonsensical. And that is really, really frustrating. I'll keep watching this, not because I'm interested in it really at this. I'm just not. If anything, I just want to see how this wraps up. I guess I'm like, all right, well, I'm this far in. I'm 5 episodes. I just need 3 more. It's like, let's just see where this eventually goes because I'm in this deep at this point. But yeah, this is probably the best episode yet of the series on a technical level. And certainly with all the action and fight choreography, there is some like really good stuff there, and those people should be praised. But when it comes to the fundamental storytelling and character work, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Like, you have one character who says they're going to do one thing. I'm going to turn myself into the Jedi, and I'm going to reveal everything because my sister's the most important thing. Well, by the end of that episode, completely fucking changes her mind. Doesn't make any sense. Not even the end of the episode, but by the beginning, the middle of it. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on here? So, yeah, it's disappointing. It's very disappointing so far, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that are liking the show. I think there's stuff to praise in it, especially this most recent episode of all the action choreography. I think that stuff is done well for the most part, aside for the wire work, which, again, that's a personal bias of mine. I admit that. But, yeah, there's just stuff in here that is not working at all. And a lot of it, I think, could easily be fixed, but that's the state of things with Star Wars: The Acolyte. But I'm actually curious to hear from you guys. Is anyone still watching this show? Are you liking it more than me? Are you just done? Do you just not care? I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just at a point where I'm just kind of watching just for the sake of content creation right now. I'm still going to be honest about it. I'm still going to be earnest about it. If something is good, I want to praise it. I'll praise it. But if something's bad, I will criticize it. But I am curious to hear from you guys.
5 minutes later.
Bad boy, Disney's High Republic books. They won't adapt the old books, but they'll make their own more kid-friendly YA books so they can pick from that. This show ties into Young Jedi Adventures, a preschool Star Wars cartoon run on Disney Junior. So there you go. That's what they're doing. Biggie Smith, Lightsaber Shenanigans is what I watched. They got it. Yeah, the red shirts. That's where all those other Jedi were. They were red shirts. A lot of stabby. Darth Arms. I have to admit, he's fucking built. When I saw those guns of his, I was like, holy shit. Pretty cool. Also, I'm still confused as to what a lightsaber can and cannot cut through. They keep adding like new material, like our main dark side user, Dark Teeth. He doesn't even have a name yet. Dark Teeth Smilo Ren. His helmet and he has like these gauntlets on, which look cool. I do like the designs for them, but like how they're using combat is weird. Like they're able to deflect lightsabers and like make them malfunction. And I'm thinking like, okay, that's interesting and that's cool to see. It's really cool. Like I'm going to headbutt a lightsaber. It sounds fucking ridiculous, but it's like, all right, but how does that work? And they don't explain it at all. So what the fuck is that material that he's using? Because I have no clue. I don't know. It's not like the Mandalorian, I guess Beskar, which they talked about and mentioned how it's very strong material, very strong metal. It's able to deflect blaster bolts and things, and does a great job protecting users. I don't know if it protects them from lightsabers. I don't know about that. But this stuff, I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Unless they're taking it from a Legends material, I don't know. But they don't name it in the episode, so I have no idea. So it looked cool, but it was weird how it was used. Clownfigs are maybe in the back to things to show up next episode. Everyone's fun. Oh, I know. Oh, God, yeah. What's also shocking is how they just leave all these dead Jedi around. They're like, whatever. It's like these fucking jungle monsters are going to come out and eat their bodies like within like a few minutes. You're just like, we're going to leave them there, whatever. It's like, these are your friends. It's so weird. I like this episode, but riding solo over the place is Biggie Smith. Chris Harris haven't started. Katria on hands. Good to see you, Katria. Hope you're doing very well. Very short stream today. We're just doing some reviews, reacting to some trailers, that kind of thing. Prepping people for tomorrow's Biddython. Biddython Social. A nice bitty social. We got some fun challenges to do, some goofy games to play, some anime characters to smash and or pass on. It's going to be a good time. Going to be a good time. But good to have you, good cheer. Hope you're doing well. Happy Tappy Dino Dance. Bishop, I never watched it. I listened to your reviews, and that covers it for me. RLM's review and covering the drama routes. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like, people are getting upset. It's like, oh, you have a contingent of people. Not everyone who's criticizing the show, obviously, but you have a contingent of people who are just upset that you have characters who are black or are gay. It's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if I don't care what the race or ethnicity or whatever sexual attraction, gender of the character is. Like, at the end of the day, the thing that I most care about, you can have all, that's fine, but you need to make sure that the character is written well, that they make sense, that they're interesting to follow. That's what's more important. That's what I want. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not one of those guys who's like, remember when Star Wars had a white lead man? Like, I don't give a shit. It's just make sure that the characters are interesting and make me fall in love with them. Make me hate them in the best way possible. Make me love to hate them. Right. And, by this time, like, I liked Master Soul, but now I'm just like, this guy, I don't really care. I don't really care. That's like when you have all these major deaths in this episode. I was like, I felt fucking nothing for them, which is a huge problem. Clownface, watching out of completionism, writing is bad, fight was good last episode, not expecting anything good from the show. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, Clown Freaks. I'm at a point where I was like, I'm not expecting a lot. Yeah, I imagine maybe a few more good fight scenes and some really excellent choreography. Like, I'm sure we'll get that again, and then another episode. But yeah, in terms of everything else, I'm right there with you. And I think that's a very reasonable take. I think that's being extraordinarily fair. Yeah, that's right. I got a big ass head. No doubt about it. No doubt about it at all. Large. Alec, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Biggie Smith, it does protect from lightsabers, Mando block. So it does. So is that what he's wearing? He's wearing Beskar? I guess so. Nah, friends, remember Jedi have no emotion. That's the other thing that's bothered me. For the longest time, I talked about this before. I don't like the demystifying of the Jedi. And I'm not saying like Disney stars is the one that, they made the Jedi suck. No. I've had issues with how the Jedi have been presented, like, since the prequels. Remember, like, separate yourself from your knowledge and seeing all the Jedi stuff in the prequel movies and things, and just think about when you first came to know the concept, the idea of what the Jedi were in the original trilogy. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to Luke about it. And they were, guardians and peacekeepers, and they fought during the Clone Wars and all that. There was just like, wow, this interesting thing about them. It's like they were like, knights. You thought they were just kind of like sci-fi knights, and that was cool. And they can wield this supernatural force and make things move and influence people's thoughts, and also wield this incredibly powerful weapon, the lightsaber. That's like really interesting. And it was like this long ago, this lost order, right? That's just kind of been forgotten. But then when we got to the prequels, and they what happened was they started just explaining everything. Instead of like the Jedi being more like knights, they became more like monks in a way, and they had to be celibate. And then they brought in the whole fact you can't have emotions. You can't pursue a relationship, like a romantic relationship. And it was just like, it was very weird to me. Whereas, like, you had in the books and stuff, like Luke got hooked up with Mara Jade and had kids and stuff, and his Jedi Order, all of his fucking students they started schtupping all one another, some turn bad, but overall, like, this whole weird celibacy thing that was introduced in the prequel was like, why this? And just the rules and everything, and the more we saw the Jedi, the more we realized, like, that Jedi kind of fucking suck, they're kind of all sticks in the mud. And I don't think, and some people say it all started with Disney. He's like, no. I think it started with the prequels. And so I really I miss the idea. It's like, what's his name? It's like, oh God, the character from Ahsoka. Let me look it up. Yeah, Ray Stevenson. Ray Stevenson's character, when he's asked about the Jedi, he says, I miss the idea of them, but not the truth. That's what it is. I miss the idea, the legend, the fantasy, the the little bits of lore we get about them. It's like we didn't have the full picture, but we had some of it, and it was like, oh, that's really like amazing. So to have like Luke be, you're the last of the Jedi. When Yoda's like, when the last ones, I'm dead. You'll be the last of the Jedi. The last of the Jedi you will be. It was like, holy shit! Now responsibility placed on like Luke's shoulders and stuff, and then even in like the more recent like Star Wars content where Luke Skywalker's shown up with his CGI face, he's kind of more like he's like a monk. He's doing the same things the Jedi did, which I know is what never really led to the Kylo Ren and stuff. But it's just a shame. It's a shame. It's very frustrating. Let's see. Sure, yeah, we're doing a Biddy-thon. Yeah, we're doing a Biddy-thon tomorrow. I'll reveal the stuff in just a bit. Country, I'm honestly not interested in watching the show. Yeah, there's several amazing shows out there right now you can watch. I mean, I know you're watching Shogun at the moment. Shogun's amazing. Obviously, The Boys is out right now, which has been great. You have obviously House of the Dragon just started up again. You have some great animated shows like My Adventures of Superman, of course, and some other ones on the way. So yeah, agreed. Alrighty, more time for me to watch Shogun tonight. Yay! Why couldn't the show be about the relationship between Jackie and Ocean instead of being about those damn twins? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just something. Balin was great. I liked his character. Yoda was a fun guy in Jedi Master. I liked Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. I love that whole reveal. Like, I'm here to find this great warrior, this great Jedi Master, Yoda. And Yoda's just fucking with Luke the whole time. Ooh, Jedi Master. Yes. And, like, doing all that shit. I like when he gets in those little duel with R2-D2. When he finds that flashlight, so he's like, and R2-D2 tries to grab. He's like, no, mine. Like, all that shit. I love it. And then when Luke realizes, like, oh, this little green creature is actually Yoda, this powerful warrior. Like, Yoda's entire... you feel that change now. You feel where it becomes a lot more serious. And he even gets fucking dark and nefarious, where Luke's like, I'm not afraid. And Yoda's like, you will be. Oh, you will be. It's like, fuck, Yoda, And I just feel like the prequels and a lot of, like, content that has come out after that, I just haven't liked the way the Jedi have been presented. I miss the not knowing anything about them. His aura changes. Yeah, his entire aura changes. That Star Wars kids cartoon I mentioned is apparently being well received. Kids really going to Jedi school and having adventures, and is being praised as a show that promotes teamwork. Now, if they put that level of care in their live action shows. The thing is, like, they absolutely can. They just need this unified. They need to have some sort of vision going forward. I don't feel like it just feels rudderless. It feels like what direction we're going. It's like, yeah, I mean, for every Andor that we get, which I'm very excited for Andor season 2, I'm hopeful that's going to be really good. We get several like really disappointing seasons of more Star Wars TV shows, and it's just frustrating. And I feel like this had the germ of a good idea, and they squandered it. Which is really, really frustrating for me. But yeah, I just want to talk about Star Wars: The Acolyte with you guys and kind of share. You're right about that too, Bishop Sycamore. Yeah, Edgy brought this up as well last night during Discourse. During our Carton and Fartin'. Exposure, overexposure, and overexplaining things never work in film. Less is more. Yeah, a lot of times that's true. A lot of times it's very true. So in the case of Star Wars. And it's sad. Like I said, I'll keep watching this show. I'll keep sharing my thoughts, but I wanted to talk about it since, I did have some positive things to say about it, but I can't, in all honesty, recommend this. If you want to check it out for yourselves, you might end up liking it, probably a lot more than I do, then check it out. But yeah, it's got a lot of problems. It's got a lot of issues. But I'll keep my eye on it.